Mm. Who wants to talk in that wonderful space? And Sudeva and I, we just started to giggle and smile because there was a someone coming into the room behind Cat, and I thought, oh dear, how does that look to someone else? All these crazy, happy-looking people with their eyes closed in Zoom. So good. And I think every time when I'm supposed to tune the heart or say something about the heart, there is that feeling almost of being completely incapable of that, which is kind of part of its circuit, BX, the X in the mind, I'm not capable. And there is a quality in it that when we connect, when we're really in the heart, everything slows down, quiets down all by itself. It's not a big effort or doing. And it deepens into a kind of not knowing, unknowability, into no form. It's almost like an abyss of not knowing, not finding objects to identify with. And that's actually what the quality is about. But then also, in order to learn to experience love, we kind of need some objects to identify with. And it's actually our ability to identify an object called time and another one called space that our brain systems are able to be aware of time and space. That is what makes it possible that we experience love as an experience, that it becomes a form, a story of love, a feeling of love, an object of love. All that has to do with our ability to be in time and space and identify that. It's not something that we consciously do in that way. Oh, here's time and there's space, and so now I can feel love. That's not how it works. But still, through our nervous system, somehow that's how it works. Love in itself is defined to be the quality of water, which means it flows everywhere and it takes a round form in a round container and a square shaped form in a square container. You know, it's always doing exactly in the flowing matching its environment and going through every nook and corner and just everywhere. So that's its quality. And then again, in that flow, in order to be able to experience what we need to experience to become love one day, there's this funny thing that we actually need to be a someone within that flow who identifies other someones and other objects to relate with. The only thing that the heart knows is how to connect and relate with other hearts. And that is an entirely formless, silent affair. And yet it's a happening that we become aware of when we get out of the way, when we step a little deeper than our stories of wanting, our stories of loving, our stories of how we and life and all the rest of it has to be. And suddenly we find ourselves in that undefined awareness flow, consciousness flow of love. And again, that flow seeks form which we can identify and recognize. Recognizing something is always something that we've learned or seen or touched or experienced already some point in the past. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to recognize it. So the whole thing of what's called the second step, it's called conformity. Conform has to do with form, with what forms out of consciousness flow and becomes a something that we can love or hate. That's when we then become dual. We have a whole spectrum of reactions to it. We relate with things through other forms in our minds. We call them judgment, or I call it the inner measure tape. Not so often needed, even less often really useful, but it is what makes us evaluate on that love and hate scale that appears as a form for us to have an orientation. And all of that has to do with that flow, with that electrical current consciousness flow we call love. That is what we're sharing right now through not only the sound of my voice, but through the sound of you being there, through the presence vibration, through the seeing, looking at the screen and seeing the others, or having your eyes closed and just feeling. There's so much happening all the time in this conscious connection flow called the pulse, called love. And